This morning I'm making advocacy for the introduction of the law of psychology in legal jurisprudence because I think if you realize you probably want to go through the core subjects or even the electives that are actually taught in many law schools in Uganda, we realize that we don't have the psychology of law. Perhaps that's better said that way rather than the law of psychology of law. So I think law being a very important subject, obviously, it speaks for itself. We are reaching a time when we need to introduce the law, the psychology of law in legal jurisprudence so that we can be able to comprehend and appreciate certain values of law. And the advocates are making is that psychology and law are actually familiar concepts in the experiment of what we call life. And these concepts are of great importance and concern to psychologists, political scientists, or even jurists and sociologists, etc. So the frequency with which psychology and at times law are actually misunderstood or misconceived provoke what we call a concern in terms of debate in order to see the relationship between them. So one might ask why the order in the arrangement of the concepts and why not law and psychology, but rather psychology of law. Obviously, my answer is simple. It is so arranged because we have psychology of law, meaning that we can actually apply psychology lenses and principles to these other concepts. So the unweird think that maybe psychology is not relevant to the concrete realities in society. This is absolutely not true. Psychology is not for those who with massive intellects alone. It is approachable and one only needs to actually be disposed and prepared and disciplined. It does not parade those senseless abstract ideas, but rather deals with concrete and particular issues of life. So the idea that we need psychology in law is premised on the fact that the field of psychology and law involves what you call scientific, clinical and policy aspects of psychology to issues that arise in the legal system. So we are mindful of the fact that diverse perspectives are actually encompassed with psychology and law, including most of those subdivisions in psychology, for example, cognitive and development, or major subdivisions, if you like, in terms of industrialization or clinical. So, for example, cognitive psychologists may actually examine the reality in terms of eyewitness or memory or development of psychologists that may actually assess the impact of what we call mistreatment in terms of abuse or on social or cognitive development. So we realize that psychology therefore becomes a fundamental element in the study of law. And one of the things we're probably going to appreciate in this psychology, in terms of the psychology of law, is, for example, the relationship between psychology and law, and then the theories in terms of models of justice, in terms of relation for psychology, modules in terms of relation with what they call behavior theory or cognitive theory or psychodynamic theory, personality and violences, psychothy and violence, intelligence and violence, understanding intelligence in terms of the nature of debate, and reemergence of what they call the IQ violence debate, or perhaps even in terms of mental illness and violence, and then how psychological disorders actually affect judicial decisions. So we need to appreciate perhaps the relationship between psychology and the law and the relevance of the psychology and law, and even forensic psychology. So all these aspects are basically going to be important in the study of law, and also creating a nexus between the law, psychology and law. So therefore, making an advocate that psychology should actually be introduced as a major component, perhaps a core subject in major law schools in this country. Hence the coming up of my book called The Psychology of Law, which you can find at lubogo.org or suegeneslawup.com. So we're making an advocacy that I think this becomes paramount in terms of one of those essentials for the survival of the field of law, the law being a very fundamental aspect of society. So you may want to impress yourself with more of this information at lubogo.org or suegeneslawup.com. So God bless you and thank you for your attention.